Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Today we got another episode of reviewing NHL teams so far, as today we got the Calgary Flames, and today's going to be a very special episode as we're going to be having a guest on the show today, as we're going to be having my buddy Calvin Hector, who is in my program for broadcast news. He's just an amazing guy. He'll be jumping on talking about his favorite team in the Calgary Flames and how well he thought this team had an off season. But first up, we're going to be talking about how I thought about this team's off season, and to say the least, is my biggest question for the Flames fans is, did this team really improve from last year? Right, you only really picked up Tanf and Jacob Markstrom and then some depth guys and Simone, Nordstrom, and Levio. I don't know if that's going to be enough to make this team take that next step going towards the playoffs. But hey, you never know. So before we really get deep into this video, I'd like to just say, if you're new to the channel, make sure to click that subscribe button. And if you're just already a fan of this channel, make sure to slap that goddamn like button, baby, and let me know if you guys like the series or not, which it seems like you guys already are, so that's absolute perfect. So let's get into today's episode. Of course, if we're reviewing the Calgary Flames, they made some pretty risky moves, to say the least, with both Christopher Tanf and Jacob Markstrom. We'll first cover the big boy and Jacob Markstrom, who a lot of teams, a lot of Canadian teams were after this goalie. Vancouver, Edmonton. Edmonton was offering this guy a $5 million 7-year deal, which I thought was very ballsy of Peter Holland. I'm glad we actually didn't get Jacob Markstrom. I'm perfectly fine with Mikko Koskinen, but Jacob Markstrom, he just kind of exploded this year. He had his big season this year with the Vancouver Canucks. He only played 43 games. I think he was dealing with some injuries. He had a spectacular playoffs. But overall, Jacob Markstrom's been a decent goalie over his career. He's had some decent stats. A lot of years where he's dealt with some injuries. Some years where he's just dealt with some crap. And especially in Florida, he definitely did not get off to the hardest start in his career. He was really thrown in the wind, right? Like, he was taken from Sweden and thrown right into the NHL and thrown right into the fire. And he was. Like, he was a big draft pick. He was a very highly touted prospect for the Florida Panthers, and he's taken a long time. He's finally gone to his prime now at 30 years old, and the biggest question is for Jacob Markstrom, will he continue that success with the Calgary Flames? We've seen goalies before where they just have a one-year wonder season and then they crap the bed the rest of the way. We've seen goalies like Matt Murray, who's definitely not the greatest regular season goalie, but you throw him in a playoffs position, he's going to perform. So what is Jacob Markstrom really going to be? And we're going to have to see that. I think Calgary Flames fans are very excited about Jacob Markstrom signing with the team. But it could be a very bad contract and it could be a very good contract. It's just depending on how Jacob Markstrom plays. And it's risky with a goalie no matter what. So I guess it's a good risk for the Calgary Flames. And I would give this a very good grade, almost near an A. But I would give it a B plus for sure. I think it was a very smart deal. Christopher Tanf, I thought this deal was really stupid right when they signed it. Christopher Tanf has been a very decent defenseman. He's getting paid about the same that he was in Vancouver, but he's an aging defenseman. You're signing a 30-year-old defenseman to the next 4 years. We did that exact same thing with Chris Russell, right? Chris Russell was just kind of a tweener top 4 defenseman. He was. And then we decided to sign him at 30 years old, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, 2017. So, yeah, 3 years ago now. Yeah, he was 30 years old. We did the exact same thing, and the contract ended up absolutely terrible. And now we're still paying for it. That's what's going to happen with Christopher Tanf. Christopher Tanef's already showing that decline, and you got him stuck on a no-trade clause. This is definitely not the greatest contract for the Calgary Flames. Is one of the downfalls. I think you guys should have picked up or should have kept TJ Brody, or maybe signed him for a couple years. You got Juuso Valimaki developing. You got Shillington. You're just locking up another defenseman in that top 4 core that is very unneeded. right? Like, it's a stupid deal. I don't like the deal for the Calgary Flames. I think it makes their defensive core way worse, and especially with how well UC Valimaki's doing in Europe right now, he's ripping it up. He's doing very, very well as the defenseman down there, and I think you could have let him almost have some top four time, or pick up somebody for a year and not have signed Christopher Tanf to that stupid $4.5 million deal for the next 4 years. I don't like it. It was a really stupid deal for the Calgary Flames. Straight up dumb. And in the last signing they did, they signed Andrew Manjapani. I really like the kid. I think this is one of their developing guys. They signed him to a $2.4 million deal for the next 2 years, which I was seeing some people on Twitter saying it's a good contract. Like, it is a steal of a deal for Manjapani. But the problem is about it is after these 2 years, he's going to demand a big boy contract. Like, he's going to demand a lot of money, and you're going to have to deal with him in arbitration. So we'll have to honestly see how that goes, but you're going to have 2 good years of a manageable contract playing top 6 hockey. But my biggest question with this practically ending off, is this a Stanley Cup winning roster? No. Is this even a playoff roster? Barely. In the Pacific Division, this team is without a doubt a second to third place team without a doubt. But I would even say this team is a third, fourth spot in the Pacific Division. I don't see them moving past the first round this upcoming season. I don't. Their defense looks really weak. I don't know if you could really trust Noah Hannafin. He's been off and on. I mean, showed decent analytics. And Christopher Tanf, he's a bombshell. Giordano's only getting older. He's 37 years old. I don't know what's left in the tank for the Calgary Flames. And we'll really have to see. Can Johnny Goudreau have a bounce back? I'm going to give this offseason for the Calgary Flames a B. A B minus at least. Because Tanf really brought it down. If you just did the Jacob Markstrom signing and the Manjapani signing, you signed a smart right-handed defenseman, I would have given this team probably almost a B+. I think the Jacob Markstrom move is a really good move. I would have been really excited if I got him on the Oilers, but I would have been questioning that, is that contract too long? Is it going to be risky, because by the time the end of the contract, he'll be 36 years old, and a lot of goalies age out by that time. So we'll really have to see what happens with the Calgary Flames. I give them a B minus B for their offseason. Also, their draft pick thing that they did, picking up Connor Zary after making a bunch of deals, was such a smart thing for Brad Trevelyan to do, which I think he's still a smart GM, but definitely not signing and building his team. But anyways, they did a really good job drafting-wise. I love what they did with Connor Zary. Good pick by the Calgary Flames. But I'm going to end the video. Oh, actually not ending the video here. I totally forgot that I got the collab with my buddy Calvin. So we're going to be sending it right off to that, as they're going to be talking about some more Flame stuff and how the Flames feel about their moves. Hey everyone, and we're back here with my main man, Calvin Hector from BN. He is a broadcast news student at SAIT. We go to the same school. We met on the same day. Somehow we're friends. He's a Flames fan. I'm an Oilers fan. I don't know how the hell we get along. But how's it going, my main man?
It's going good. I mean, I'm sad there's no hockey right now. I think as many hockey fans are, but it is
I
what it
went up
is.
to, I went up to Scotsman Hill today, looking out down at Saddle Dome and not seeing any hockey or anything go on there. It's just, I miss it so much. I miss going to hockey games and just watching hockey in general. I miss it. But let's get right into jumping into things, as I just originally talked about the Flames and showing my concerns for, of course, their defense with Tanf being signed and some missing forward links in their depth. But we're going to start everything off with a very strong signing from you guys, Jacob Markstrom. How was that? What was your reaction getting Jacob Markstrom onto the team?
Well, I mean, for years, I just remember every time free agency went by, I'd just look at my dad and be like, why aren't the Flames doing anything? They would always sit so idle and be that team that would do the small signings, like add the depth or whatever. They wouldn't be going for the name in the headlights, the marquee player that's the free agent of this, like, of the off season. Everyone's trying to get him. And so finally it's like 2020 now, And the Flames went for one of the biggest free agents on the market, and it happened to be a goaltender, which is another thing that the Flames have been lacking in for so long, is just a steady goalie. Haven't had one in net since Kiprusoff. Like, it's been a goaltender carousel. I think it was like something like 6 or 7 starters in the last 5 seasons or whatever the statistic was. Just insane. They didn't have any stability, and now with this Markstrom signing, barring that he stays healthy the entire season and the entire contract, let alone, we have goaltending now, and that's great because that means that Brad Treliving, the GM, can focus on other aspects of the team, like you were saying, like the holes in the forward lines, and working on the defense.
Yeah, and the other signing that the biggest question, I love the Jacob Markstrom signing. It is a little bit risky with the 6 years, of course. They scooped him right out of Edmonton Oilers' hands, but I'm glad I don't have to pay a 7-year deal to Jacob Markstrom. My biggest concern is the defense. You guys lost a big guy in TJ Brody this past season, and now you guys get a lesser defenseman in Christopher Tanev for a pretty long deal. How do you feel about that?
Well, to be honest, I'm sad TJ Brody's gone, not just because he was a big blue liner for Calgary, but when he first was drafted by the Flames, I already liked him. And he hadn't played a single game yet, but I'm like, you know what? I think this guy's going to be great for Calgary. And I'm not just saying that after, 8 years of him being on the Flames. I'm saying that because I generally liked him from the draft. I'm like, one of my favorite players right off the get-go. And so, I mean, he was a little slow to start for the Flames, and he had some turnover troubles a couple seasons, but generally he played very well and was very consistent on the blue line. So that is a big loss. Good on him for going to Toronto. That's going to help Toronto immensely, I think. Push them further with their playoff hopes. Of course, all Toronto fans want that cup. But adding Tanev is getting a little more gritty on the blue line, because I think that's something the Flames have had issues with, because yes, we've had gritty players, but they weren't defensive players. I think we haven't really had that guy who can, go and block a shot when it's integral for, the game, like at an important part, since Chris Russell. And that was back in 2015. And that was when all the Flames did was block shots. The biggest aspect of the game was just blocking shots. Teams weren't able to beat them because they block like 2 and 3 shots, and then all it would take is a couple goals for the Flames, and there you go, they win the game. And so Tanev, yeah, he might not have the skill that Brody had, so that's a loss of skill. But I think in terms of grit and just personality, I think Tanev will be huge, to help that blue line, get a little bit stronger on the puck, be a little less turnovery, and overall, I'm not disappointed in grabbing Tanev from the Canucks, and I'm excited to see what he'll do once the NHL season gets started back up.
See, the way that I thought of the deal, because I've seen this before with Chris Russell, right? He was a top four defenseman, playing decent minutes, definitely nowhere near 4 million because he just blocks a lot of shots, right? Kind of like what Christopher Tanev does. We signed him to a 4-year deal, and it was at the same age, 30 years old. I don't know if it's going to backfire as bad as what it did with Chris Russell, or it'll be a good deal. But I know you guys also got a lot of young defensemen with UC Volomaki, as you know, he's ripping it up in the league right now, and that's pretty impressive for a Finnish defenseman. And you guys just got a lot of good depth defensemen with Shillington, of course, as well. Actually, I wanted to quickly ask you, how do you feel about Yusuf Volomaki doing so well in the Liga right now?
Well, of course, him performing well in an overseas hockey league is great. But most of the time, the NHL is compared as the best league in the entire world for hockey. And another thing is, there's a lot more ice to work with in the league that Val is currently playing, and so it allows the defensemen to maybe hold the puck a little longer, do more with the puck. They don't have to get rid of it as quickly, just since there's so much more ice. It's more spread out, and so I think it's great that he's doing well, but I'm interested to see how that translates over to a smaller ice. And it's good conditioning wise. It's great that he's playing, because that means he's getting those minutes and he's getting more experience as a young defenseman, and that's what you need, because defensemen generally take longer to develop than a forward. So your blue line, you generally have to plan a little bit further ahead than, say, adding a forward, adding a center or a winger. Of course, goaltending takes the longest, but defensemen generally you have to wait. And Valimaki, we were excited to have him last year, and then of course he had that unfortunate injury that sidelined him for all of last season. And so it'll be exciting to see what he can do. Again, barring an injury, hopefully he stays healthy. And that's another worry about him playing right now, is there is the possibility of injury. But bigger ice sheet, so there's more space, and it's good that he's playing.
So now raise another concern for the Calgary Flames is their offense. They haven't done too much. They got Manjapani back on the team, which is a nice, very nice signing for Manjapani, and also getting Nordstrom and Levio. Give me your thoughts on, of course, losing Jankowski, a kind of a gritty depth guy for you guys' team, and Manjapani, what you think needs to be done for that forward core to have a bounce back like they did a couple of years ago?
Well, I'm going to start off by saying the fact the Flames, well, they still have Lucic. Like, he wasn't going to go away. So that adds to the grit, and that adds to the passion of the depth players. And then they also kept Ronaldo. So that's another, basically, in Calgary we refer to him as Lucic number 2, or mini Lucic, because they're the Bash brothers. They're both gritty players and same kind of style of play. They might not be the best at puck handling, but when it comes to the board battles or getting dirty along the boards, they generally keep the puck possession just because they're really strong on the puck. And so adding, able to get back Manjapani, I think just having that kind of grit to look out for you, it adds to your confidence. Like, I mean, if someone screws with like a Johnny Goudreau or a smaller player on the Flames, Lucic is going to stand up and be like, you can't do that. He's going to either start a fight or just pick on the guy for the rest. And Tkachuk. Matthew Tkachuk will do the same thing, get under a player's skin. So the Flames this year aren't going to be a team that other teams are going to want to mess with, especially in the mental aspect of hockey. Because I think the Flames, as was example in the Battle of Alberta last year, it escalated to a point where it was just all fisticuffs. Like, it reminded me of the Tortorella days in Vancouver with the line brawl between Hartley and Tortorella, where it's just all the tough guys on the ice against so I think the Flames are getting their grit back, which is good, and that'll hopefully help the confidence of the top line players like Monahan and Goudreau, and they can learn from guys like Tkachuk and Lucic and Ronaldo. I'm excited to see that gritty side of the team.
Now, do you think Johnny Goudreau is going to have a bounce back season this year, or do you see him being traded here soon?
I don't believe he'll be traded before the season starts. I think the Flames, it's a gamble, because if they wait, his value might even go further down if he's not having a good season. Like, if he doesn't start well out of the gate, well, but that's a catch-22, because if he plays well, then you're not necessarily going to want to trade him away. If the Flames are doing well when the season gets restarted, why would you get rid of, one of your top players if you can't? He might get a big return, but you don't really know that. Trades are hard to guess and estimate what will happen. I think if the Flames are going to deal him, it's probably best they deal him before the season starts. Because as I was saying, it's more of a gamble to see how he performs once the season kicks off and gets started. Yeah. And it almost seems like this is a longer offseason, so a lot of things have slowed down. Like, free agency happened, and there was a lot going on the first couple days, but there's still players that are unsigned, and there's still lots of room to have other trades. And I mean, it's just that teams are taking their time to evaluate what's going on. And of course, there's all the COVID stuff, so there's lots of guidelines to follow for if you're going to trade for a new player. You got to make sure, they're healthy and that they're able, like, especially Calgary being in a Canadian market, you can't just necessarily swap players with the U.S. teams, because then they're all going to have to quarantine and all that red tape and such. So I don't want to see Goudreau traded quite yet, but
Mm-hmm.
it could happen. It could very well happen. But I think Tree Living's just being very cautious about it.
Yeah, awesome. So thank you for being on the show, helping me out with this one. That's awesome. How about any final thoughts? You got any?
Well, not about hockey, but I do think with the new retro look for the Flames, they're just going to be so nice seeing them play on the ice, especially the road whites. I honestly like them more than the home reds. As soon
I
as
agree.
this is a Heritage Classic jersey, but as soon as it came out, as soon as I found it in the store, oh, I snagged it up. And then with all these teams releasing interesting third jersey ideas, why are the Flames and Adidas not bringing back Blasty? Blasty needs to make a comeback, even if it's for like 2 or 3 games as a third jersey. I would love to see what Adidas could do with that with the logo and just. I think the Flames need another black jersey
Uh,
to come back,
I
and
I agree. I
yeah,
agree with you.
because the
And I
Oilers.
cannot wait to see your Flames jerseys against the Oilers jerseys. I am super excited whenever the hockey season will start up again, so we can start arguing with each other.
You're so right.
All right, thanks for having being on the show, man, and we'll see you guys all next time.